there, welcome to Teen Time. My name is Terry. Today we're talking about emotional control. I'm here with these lovely ladies. Ladies, can you introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Juliana. I'm 14 and I'm from St. Mark's, DC.
Hi, I'm Nardine. I'm 14 and I'm from Virgin Mary in San Pajonios.
Hi, I'm Helen. I'm 15 and I'm from St. Mark's, DC.
Hi, I'm Grace. I'm 13 and I'm from St. Mark's, DC.
Great, thanks again for joining us today, ladies. Today we're talking about emotional control. So my first question is, what are emotions and how do they affect us?
Emotions are like the intense feelings that we have, so it's not just like any feeling, so it's like love and anger and like things that like control the way we act.
Yeah, and they affect us because you can express yourself when you have emotions.
Like, what do you mean?
Like if you're angry, then you can express that you're angry. If you're like happy, then you can show that you're happy.
Like kind of like in our face, sorry.
They affect the way that we interact with others, so if we're in like a bad mood, we won't have such as a good interaction as we should with people that we just meet or people that like we know and we're just trying to talk to.
What else? What do you think?
It can also like affect, like as Nardine said, like interaction. Like it can be bad because like you can be like angry and like you can be like, ugh, like I had such a bad day today. When like this like new student comes in and you don't know like how to control it and you're like sort of like scaring them like, and like they're like sort of confused. They're like, okay.
Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah.
Can we ask you to share the story or
It was basically that.
that? Okay, cool. What other examples? I'll ask you, what other examples of emotions? Anything.
I mean, if I like do something wrong, like my first instinct is to like yell at someone. So like if I get in trouble, like I'll just like yell back at the person. So it's just like I can't control myself sometimes.
What about other examples of emotions?
When I'm tired, this probably goes to everyone. I'm a little grumpy.
Me too.
Yeah.
Happy, sad, like just yell out a few emotions or tell us a few emotions.
You can tell that I'm very happy because I don't shut up when I'm very happy. I'm a very expressive person, so like you'll understand just from looking at me what kind of mood I'm in.
Yes. In the morning when I wake up early, I'm very cranky because on the weekends, my sisters decide to come into my room and like jump on the bed while I'm in it. So that makes me very angry. So yeah.
So we heard anger, we heard cranky, we heard happy. What other emotions are there in life? Sadness, yeah.
Love. Do you love me?
Sure.
Okay, love is an interesting one. Some people say it's an emotion, other people say it's an action. Maybe we can get to that in a little bit, but any other examples? Just so we kind of like cover the ground and then we'll get deeper in.
Maybe being like anxious, like when or stressed, like when you have a test.
Anxious or stressed, yeah. Definitely. Anything else?
Confused.
Confusion. It's a good one that we don't often think about. Cool. Do you ever feel like emotions can get out of control?
Yes.
Definitely when you let just that's all you think about for a period of time, like that's all you can think about, so it just controls your actions. So if like you're not supposed to be like angry like to like everyone just because something like bad is happening in your life, but if like that's all you're focusing on, then you're gonna just take it out on everyone.
Yeah, and your emotions can be out of control because, like, for example, if I'm mad at my brother, then if he does something, like one thing bad in the morning, and then I'm mad at him, then I'll just be mad at everyone else the whole entire day because I'm already in a bad mood.
So it kind of seeps into your state of mind, state of being.
I would say like once you have an emotion like like for me, like if I'm like angry, like I said before, you can definitely tell. And then like through the day, I'll like switch. So I'm like mad when I wake up in the morning, and then I come home, and I'm like super excited or I'm very hyper. And then I like a few hours later, I just want to sleep and I don't want to talk to anyone.
So it kind of takes over like everything and it kind of controls like, okay, this is what I'm feeling, I'm acting on it, like no questions kind of thing. Anything else?
And I mean something that everybody notices, so it's not like you can really hide it. So like yeah.
Yeah, kind of permeates like everything about you. Okay, so have you ever gotten angry at someone just because you couldn't help it, or have you ever cried just for no reason?
Yes.
Yeah.
Care to share?
Usually, like, when I'm tired, I just, like, I'm so grumpy that I'm just like, ugh. So I just, like, I mean, I don't, like, cry, like, hard, but I'm just, like a few tears are shed. Just
Yeah,
like,
definitely
ugh.
feel like I'm stressed out. Like I'll have a meltdown or something, or like yell at somebody, or I'll just like can't do it anymore. But like I normally get over it pretty quick.
Like the other day, I was studying for my math test, and then it was like late at night. It was like 10:30, and then my sister, she walked into my room and she like asked me to get her something. So I just like started yelling at her because like I was really stressed and like I was like nervous because the test, like my teacher said it was gonna be hard, and like the tests are normally hard when she doesn't say they're hard anyway. So
Yeah, definitely. It's really hard sometimes to control emotions, is what I'm hearing from everybody. So, who made emotions anyway, and are they bad? And what are some ways that they are good and helpful?
If we let our emotions like drive us to do things that are gonna like make other people's lives better, not like us just like ruining other people's lives, it's just like putting our bad feelings on them, I guess.
I don't think emotions are bad. Like they're good and helpful for you because you get to like let other people like know what you are feeling. So they're not bad. I don't know who created emotions though. Maybe ourselves? I don't know.
Okay, what does everybody think?
I think you should just control them, I guess, but they're not like bad in general.
I feel like the answer would be like God, He created us with like emotions so that we can feel what we feel. And emotions aren't necessarily bad. It's just like depending on the way that we use them. Like expressing isn't necessarily bad unless you take like your emotions, like especially negative ones, about out on everyone else, and you make their days, like their day, just as bad as yours is.
Okay, cool. So, I like how you're saying that God created emotions, and I agree. What do you think, Grace?
I think that God created our emotions, and I also feel like I don't know necessarily if they're bad. Like when you're like mad or angry, I don't know if it's considered as like a bad emotion, but like you could show your anger like to others. I don't know if it would be a bad emotion.
So you're saying, so what I'm hearing you're saying is that it's not bad to express yourself, or you're not sure necessarily if it's bad to express yourself?
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily bad because you're angry about something. If it's like, as Juliana said, like if she's like stressed for a test and her like sister comes in and asks for something, like that would make me stressed a little bit too because you're already stressed with one thing and now you're gonna be stressed with another thing. You have to get your sister something else.
Yeah, I totally like resonate with that. I remember when I study for tests or when I'm stressed about something, everything has to stop. Everybody has to do exactly what I say at that moment right now. So yeah, I agree. Another question I had is it possible to be in control or influence your emotions?
Yeah, but it's not very easy because like in the moment you're kind of like like your emotion, like your head is kind of like blurred because like that's all you're thinking about. So like it's hard to think like, oh, let me just calm down and then I'll start talking. Like that's not your first reaction.
I don't know. I don't think you can control your emotions. Well, it can be hard, but like they're just there. They just happen like by themselves. So you can't just think and say, "Oh, let me be happy," and then you'll be happy. Like that just doesn't
Well,
happen.
like not like that. I feel like taking your like anger out on like other people, like you don't need to do that, but you can still be angry.
Yeah, I think definitely
Yeah.
like containing your anger. So if you aren't feeling so good, it's not that you are becoming just immediately happy. It's that you're refraining from passing that feeling along to everyone else through your interactions.
Well said. What do you think, Grace?
I think, yeah, like as Nardine said, like containing your emotions. I'm not really sure.
How about I'll ask you another question. Has there been a time in your life where you were able to kind of like control how you interacted with people even though you were feeling something really strong?
Well, like as Juliana said, like you can't just be like happy in just like 1 second, but like if you like see something that makes you happy, then you'll become happy.
Okay. And has that ever happened to you, or can you think of an example?
Well, um, maybe like when I see like younger kids, I'm like, oh, I have someone to actually play with. So like I get happy like from like being like sad, or like if I'm like really tired that day and then I just see like a kid, I'm like, oh, I have someone to play with.
Okay. So sometimes what I'm hearing you're saying is that sometimes things in our life kind of can change our emotion. So even though we're feeling something really strong, it can change. It's not like one thing all day kind of thing. Okay, cool. So if we can control our emotions, what are some ways that you've found helpful to control emotions? Like what strategies do you guys use? Like if you really have an intense emotion.
I normally just like don't reply. I mean, it's really hard for me because like I always like have something to say, but if I like know that if I say something I'm gonna like say something I shouldn't, then like I kind of just like step back, and then when I calm down, then I go back and like discuss like what I wanted to say.
Yeah, like when I'm mad, I'll like either go to my room, or when I'm stressed, sometimes I'll go out and run, because like you kind of just don't focus on anything, you only focus on the running part.
When I'm stressed, I just pray and just like stop for a second. I'm like, okay, I can do this. And then I just like try to relax myself from being stressed and like try to think of like happy thoughts.
That's good. I think when I'm mad, like I don't like to talk to anyone. I feel like I stay in my own bubble. Like don't talk to me or else I'll say something to you that I shouldn't. But like when I'm stressed, it's like easier if you stop thinking about everything you have to do and just think, oh, what I have to do next. Like I have to do this. All right, sounds good. And then I'll move on to something else. But I try not to think about everything that I have to do.
Yeah, it's not good if you bother Nardine when she's mad. That will end badly.
Care to share an experience or leave that?
Well, not specifically, but like sometimes she'll be mad at me and then I'll like annoy her and then she'll just like explode in my face. So, yeah.
Care to share a personal experience?
No.
Has anyone ever exploded before?
Yeah.
Definitely. I have many
You
times.
should still like let it out, but you shouldn't like explode like over like everyone. Like it's important to say like exactly how you feel so the other person's aware, but you don't have to make it seem like it's all their fault. I guess.
Yeah. Have you ever like tried to do that before?
Yeah, but sometimes it doesn't go like how you think. There's like, oh no, it's your fault, and then kind of like that makes you more angry. So
I mean,
it's kind of difficult.
when you're mad, you're just looking for someone to blame. Like no matter what happens, like you look for someone to blame. So it's like, oh, I had a bad day. Well, you know, it's your fault, and it's your fault, and it's your fault because you did this, you did this, you did this. So it's like a lot easier to pin the blame on someone else rather than to think I could have handled what I did better.
Yeah.
Do you think, okay, so just going off of what you're saying, do you think that, or my question could be, so if it's easy to find someone to blame when you're angry, what kind of ways do you think we can try to think of that we can deal with that better? Just like brainstorm.
Try to like talk to the other person maybe and like tell them why you're mad at them.
Okay.
And I think going into the situation prepared, like having prayed before that God gives you peace, like throughout the day, also helps you like think before you like yell at someone.
Yeah, I like that a lot. What else? Think out of the box.
I think just giving yourself some time to cool down before saying anything. Because once again, when you are angry, you don't really think about what you're saying. And it's more of like you said that, so I need a reply and I'm gonna say this, like while we're talking about that. So it's probably easier and more preventable if you just take some time away and then you go, and then you come back, so you don't end up saying, oh, well, it's all your fault that this happened to me and why I'm having a bad day.
What do you think, Grace?
Maybe pray before like exploding on someone because you don't want to say something bad to them.
Yeah, but like when you're mad and you're like if you're having an argument with someone and you're mad, then if they say something mean to you, you're not just going to be like, oh, let me pray really quick in my head and like answer. Like you don't just like do that.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think that it's hard to like really be in control and be like, okay, I have to pray now. What about arrow prayers though? Do you think that could work?
Always have to like, that has to be like a habit that you have built. Like you can't just like start one day and be like, oh, let me just do an arrow prayer super quick.
Keyword habit. How do we build those habits?
You have to
You have to
train yourself.
Yeah, you have to tell yourself like that's something that you want to do and that's something that you need before like it can actually make a difference.
It has to be consistent, right?
Yeah.
Like every single time, if it's something we want to work on. Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So another question I had was, so we talked about different strategies, right? We talked a little bit about spiritual strategies, but let's maybe get more into depth. What other spiritual strategies can we think of to try to be in control of our emotions?
Maybe reading the Bible or singing like a hymn or something.
When specifically, like, tell me, like, when you say sing a hymn, like in church, by yourself?
Or like sometimes we do praise and worship in Sunday school. So like if I'm mad, then I'll just like remember like some of the lyrics. So then I'll just like say it in my head.
That's cool.
I think also there are some stories in the Bible, because there's always a story in the Bible for really anything that we could go through. So there's something in there that you can find about how others dealt with what they were going through, or how they reacted with other people through what they did.
Perfect, yeah.
I feel like asking for advice from like your parents or father or confession like could really like give you like a good idea of how you should react to everything instead of you trying to think of it yourself.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So, love the conversation we're having. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. Hi there, welcome back to Teen Time. Today we're talking about emotional control. So, we've been having really good conversation actually. We talked a little bit about spiritual strategies, that's kind of where we left off. Now, another question I had is, have you ever tried to analyze your emotions? Like, what I'm trying to say is, when we talk to people, sometimes what they say kind of fuels our emotions in the moment. We get so riled up maybe. But have you ever tried to kind of stop and say like, okay, they said this, I'm feeling this way. Why am I feeling this way because they said this? Have you ever asked yourself that?
Yeah, after like you sit and think about what happened and why it happened, you start to think like what part is like my fault, what part should we like talk about?
Or like what part of what they said really affected me, and how can I work on that so next time someone else says that kind of stuff to me, then I don't react as badly.
I mean, I haven't, and I guess I should start doing that now then.
Maybe you can think about a time in your life, and you don't have to share it, but just a time in your life where something someone said got you really like riled up, and maybe it's definitely a great strategy to just kind of analyze it, because a lot of the things that we say can do the same to others, and all of the things that others say to us can do that. What about you? Have you ever had that experience?
I don't know, but I know that mostly, like, I would think probably, like, why am I angry? Should I be angry about this?
Yeah, I think it's so important to do that, because when we do that, when we examine why we feel the way we feel, it's a really great strategy. It helps us to kind of say, okay, well, the emotion is separate from like the person. It's not that the person is making me angry, it's like what they said. So I think that's really, really important. What examples from Christ can we learn on guiding his emotions? Like, can you think of a time in the Bible where maybe something really bad happened, somebody said something really mean to Christ or whatever? Like, how can we learn from him?
I mean, when like Jesus on the cross and like everyone was like, "Oh, if you're the savior, you can take yourself down and like save all of us." But like he chose like the bigger prize than to just like get all like the glory at that time and to like save everybody else instead of himself.
Yeah, and when he was carrying his cross and the soldiers were like whipping him when he was carrying his cross, he didn't yell at them or he didn't do anything. He wasn't angry at them. He just accepted it and he just continued.
When he was being whipped and like when the crown of thorns was like put on his head, he didn't complain at all. He like took all this like, he didn't take it seriously, but like he was like very humble about it and he didn't like complain about it.
Sorry, you said that he complained or he didn't? Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't hear that before. Yeah, definitely. I think that he's like the ultimate example, right? That what we can learn from. It's funny when you were saying when Christ was fasting and he didn't like say any negative or do any negative reaction to the devil, right? I just wanted to bring up fasting because in this time of fasting, I feel like we're really we really struggle, or I really struggle actually, with controlling my emotions. Just a question, when you're fasting like for a late liturgy, Do you ever get cranky because like you didn't eat all day?
Definitely. And then everyone else is eating around you and you just get so hungry and then you
Yeah, definitely. What other things make us like, what other things do you know about yourself that make you really like have an intense emotion or whatever?
I think specific subjects, when people talk about, um, like our religion and things like that, and they're not part of the religion and they kind of have their own idea on it, and it's not the same thing that we say about our religion or what we really are. It's almost like a trigger for like an explosion or for me to get angry about that or something that they say like about me or some sort of sensitive topic. It could be the reason why I get very angry.
and people are not very understanding. Like if I say like, oh, I'm fasting for a late liturgy and they ask like, why I'm not eating, like it just like doesn't register like that's something that like people can do. And like it kind of makes me like annoyed.
Yeah, and it makes me really frustrated because the other day, like my friends were doing something on Instagram and they were like, "Oh, what's your Instagram so I can follow you?" And I was like, "I don't have it." And then they were like, "Oh, why don't you have it? Like, what? Why?" And I was like, "Because I'm not allowed to." And they're like, "Why aren't your parents allowing you to have that? Like, that's so weird." And I was like, and then I just got really like frustrated and so I was really upset.
Yeah, definitely different things in our lives kind of trigger us, like you were saying.
I feel like again like being tired. I know that's like doesn't have to relate with
No.
this part, but like I like yeah, when I feel like really tired, it's like a big part of me and I'm like I get so grumpy and so tired. I just like it's not really like anger, but like I just like pour it out sort of.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Grace, for myself. When I'm tired and when I'm hungry, that's like always a recipe for disaster for me, for my emotions anyway. So, learning from Christ again, uh, let's kind of analyze like, okay, so when somebody hurt him or somebody insulted him or whatever, how can we learn from him? How can we apply what he did in our lives?
Well, when people were like cursing at God and like yelling at him, at Christ, and yelling at him when he was about to be crucified, he didn't do it back to them. He just accepted it, and he was able to control himself and like restrain himself from doing it back and like making a sin.
And like humility and like not knowing it's not a competition, like who can say like the worst thing to the other person. So you're not like trying to hurt them, you're just trying to stop yourself from doing something that will hurt them.
I think trying to understand that maybe like they don't recognize that what they're doing may offend you or make you feel like a strong emotion towards it, that they may not be aware of what they're saying.
Yeah, definitely giving excuses for others. What do you think? Care to share?
I feel like just everything like that. Like I feel like just like through all of Jesus' life, like they didn't believe him that he was like the Messiah, and like he just like contained. I don't know if he had like anger or anything, but like he was very humble and like kept it to himself and just like went on through life.
Yeah, so you were talking about like you weren't sure if Jesus was angry. I can think of one example of when Jesus was angry and he actually reacted, and it was a very strong reaction.
Yeah, me
Do you guys
too.
remember that?
Yeah, when in the temple, like when he saw all the people and they were selling stuff inside, and he got really mad, so he like pushed over the tables and stuff.
So maybe we can analyze it a little bit. So have you ever gotten angry at someone and you just couldn't help it? Or have you ever just cried for no reason?
Because the way that like God, the situation that God reacted to is they're disrespecting like the house of like prayer, like his own home, not like us getting upset over somebody talking to us. So like the situation like importance is like really like different.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
They took over like a place that, like Helen was saying, it's his house. Like we say, oh, we're going to church, we're going to God's house, we're going to God's home. And to find people doing things that are like so disrespectful in there, of course he'd be angry. Of course it'd be something that, they're not taking into account how rude what they were doing was and how ignorant they were being.
It's as if like someone just like barged into your house and just took everything you had. It would hurt.
Yeah, and not only that, like this is up a level, like up 10 levels maybe. Like it's not just my house or your house. It's like God's house, and like the importance of that, like you were saying, Helen. Sorry. All right, great conversation, everybody. We're gonna take a short break. We'll be right back. Hi there, welcome back to Teen Time. So today we were talking about emotional control. We had really great conversation. Now we're going to recap a little bit about the points we talked about. How do I control my emotions? How did Christ use emotional control in his life? We kind of analyzed a little bit. We analyzed our emotions, why we react the way we react. Maybe just to conclude a little bit, I'll say a few things that we kind of talked about, and then you guys can jump in too. So we talked a little bit about, okay, emotions are like when we're happy, when we're sad, different ways that we feel. And we kind of said, yeah, it's great. It's good to express our emotions. At the same time, it's not good to like give negative reactions. Anything else that you wanted to add to that point? Yeah. Okay. Great. The next thing I wanted to say was like just recapping what we said was that when we are angry or when we have like really strong emotions, we try to think about like, okay, how do we kind of contain it? How do we try to make sure that, okay, I don't want to react in a negative way. How can I do that? We talked about different strategies. Can you guys just share a few quick strategies?
So I think arrow prayers like are good if like you have a habit built for it, but if not, just like stepping back and then taking the time to think about what happened before you go off.
Yeah, and just not reacting when someone makes you mad. You can just don't say anything. You can just ignore them, and then you can think about why you were mad, and then after that you can respond to them.
Yeah, like taking a break, thinking about like why you're angry, and like thinking before you like explode on them.
Yeah, and like I wanted to add as well, giving excuses for others, like why they react the way they react as well. Awesome. We talked a little bit about, okay, how did Christ react? We talked about different like parts of his life and how he reacted in those situations. If anybody else wanted to add anything before I share the verse? We're good? All right. So the verse I wanted to share was 1 John chapter 3 verse 20. For if our heart condemns us, God is greater than our heart and knows all things. What do you guys think this verse means?
That God actually understands what we're going through and he can relate to everything that we're going through in our lives. So it's like nothing that we should, like if God can control himself, then we should try to learn to do it ourselves.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of gonna say.
Any other thoughts about the verse? What do you think when it says God is greater than our heart? What do you think that means?
I think because we have such strong emotions, but like dealing with them through God, it's a lot easier to deal with having God by your side rather than listening to every emotion that you feel.
I think that's a really important thing. What do you guys think about that? Do you agree with what she said, and if so, why?
I agree with what she said, and saying that God is greater than our heart means that we shouldn't let our emotions control what we're doing, because if we feel like an emotion inside of our head, then we shouldn't let that control what we say and what we do. We should let God control what we say and what we do.
That's very well said. Yeah.
And our actions should be like him, like how he was humble and how he like contained himself.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Great conversation, ladies, again. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and feelings and opinions about this topic. And thank you so much, ladies, for sharing your thoughts and opinions about this topic. And thank you so much for joining us on Teen Time.